It's a new year, and literary powerhouse Black Mountain Institute at UNLV is back with new free programs for everyone in Las Vegas. This season, BMI is bringing incredible writers to Las Vegas, including Iranian writer Manira Ravanpour, in conversation with one of my favorites, City of Asylum fellow Maryam Allah Amjadi at the Winchester Dondero Cultural Center on February 11th. BMI also hosts workshops, film screenings, book clubs, and other great literary programs. So visit blackmountaininstitute.org for more information. The Las Vegas Raiders. Yeah, that's still a little hard to say. They did not have a great season on or off the field this year. Big changes in personnel, question marks at quarterback, another player arrested for DUI, and yeah, that 4-13 record. Today on CityCast Las Vegas, we sort through another year of Raiders drama with Heidi Fang. She's the producer of the Review Journal's Vegas Nation podcast. So how much of a setback was the last season for the team, and where can they go from here? And is Tom Brady the answer? Also, be sure to stick around after the interview for a conversation sponsored by Juve MD, where Dr. Andrea Dempsey is helping Las Vegans manage hormonal changes through her medical practice. Stick around to learn more. It's Wednesday, January 22nd. I'm David Figler, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Heidi, it does sound like a lot of drama this year with not at their best Raiders. So what were the biggest stories from the past season?
Well, I think the biggest story all along was starting off with the beginning of the season. You looked at Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels' combination and had to wonder if they were the answer. As it is since 2012, the Raiders have been through 6 different head coaching changes that I don't believe counts interim. But when you think about the overall just impact that can have on a team, you talk about a guy like Aidan O'Connell who's come in and has already seen a myriad of coaches and hasn't probably been able to feel settled.
So I'm going to stop you right there for half a second.
Sure.
There are 2 fan bases for the Raiders. There are the hardcores, people like, I think I'm going to put you in that category, Heidi, who follow it very closely, all the ins and outs, the movement. And then there's us Vegas folk who want to root for the home team, but we don't know a lot of the names that you've been rattling off. So tell me, and for the second fan base, the casual fans of Vegas who just want them to win, who are the people that we're talking about and what are their roles?
Oh, yeah, sure. So Tom Telesco, who is the general manager to start the season, he came from the Los Angeles Chargers. He was the general manager there until the Raiders the previous year, before he became the Raiders general manager,
right.
Beat him by over 60 points, and their team in the Los Angeles Chargers cleared house. Tom Telesco became available as the general manager, and the Raiders had just fired Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels, who were the previous general manager and head coach of the team.
And we know a little bit about that, too, because there's some litigation involved with that firing and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But, okay, so our new general manager, is he still our general manager?
Yeah, the new general manager last season was Tom Telesco, and the new head coach hire last season was Antonio Pierce. And then at the end of this season, the Raiders cleared house in terms of those positions. So now they are on the hunt for a new general manager and a new head coach. And that has become rather interesting as it's developed, because we're learning that Tom Brady, who had a 5% ownership stake in this team, it's kind of calling the shots on like who might be the best fit, who can give this team a culture reset. And hopefully, I'm hoping most of the listeners here have heard of Tom Brady before.
Yeah, no, I think to many people, he is considered one of the best football players of all time. Yep. Certainly a storied career with the Patriots, if not his follow-up team, which I guess he did okay there too.
Won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, well, there's that, right? So who was the quarterback last year for the Raiders? And is that person still going to be the quarterback next season?
100% not. I don't think any chance that happens. Just and at no fault of his own. That's what I was kind of talking about in the beginning there with Aidan O'Connell. He was somebody that was drafted out of the previous regime. We're going back now 2 regimes, which was not less than 2.5 years ago. So we're looking at with the Ziegler
this is
and
kind
McDaniels.
of one of those things, Heidi. A lot of teams don't have that kind of turnover. They have the same person. Bill Belichick and Tom Brady were at the Patriots forever, right?
Think about it.
Yeah, this is very different here in Vegas.
Yeah.
So, I guess I want to understand, what do you think is the most important of all the various roles for the Raiders to put the right person in now to start the winning?
Well, that's a good question, because I think that Tom Telesco had done a good job as a general manager in drafting some real potential ground foundation builders for this team. He drafted Brock Bowers, who had a rookie season as a tight end that was off the chart. He broke a record that Mike Ditka had from 1961 this just past year.
So is that the general manager's number one contribution, is recruiting the good talent?
Oh, yeah. And deciding upon that in the draft and being able to also help the team steer its future towards the right direction and
to the visionary for the team.
Yes. Yeah. And that's important. But it is as important, I think, as having the right head coach. And to top that, the combination of the right general manager and the right head coach, because you can keep finding maybe a very good general manager and a very good head coach, but they have no synergy. If that can't happen, you're going to have a lot of discourse, and you don't want to continue to have that through a team that's already suffered a lot of instability.
Yeah, that instability. So it sounds to me like no single position is going to be a magic bullet as much as finding that right combo. So what other staffing rumors have you heard that might be good for the team beyond Tom Brady having a heavy hand in some of the selections?
You have Tom Brady, who's had a lot of influence in the hiring and who's going to be a viable candidate for a general manager for the Raiders. I would say all arrows point right now to John Spytek, who's been with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And if you go back to the Michigan days of Tom Brady, that's someone he played with. Then you go back to the Tampa Bay days where he won a Super Bowl. That is where he worked with him again, this time as general manager. So I think that already starts establishing, a good bridge between the ownership level and the general manager level. What do the owners, which now there are, several for this team, there are about 4 different people with minority shares in the Raiders, meaning the partial ownership stake. It's about a complete total of 20% between the 4, so 5% each. And Mark Davis being the primary owner of the team, who still has ultimate and final say over everything. But he's been working with Tom Brady now as quite an advisor of this team. And Tom Brady has had a vision for this team that I think Mark, and also remember, sorry, I just want to backstep one more, that if you follow the Las Vegas Aces, the women's basketball team, Tom Brady owns a share of that as well with Mark Davis. So that has been established for the past few years. And you go look at that relationship that they have had. What have the Aces done? The Aces have won back-to-back championships in the WNBA. How do you translate that to the Raiders? Bringing in the same duo, working with Tom Brady's mind in football, and saying, this is what is going to make this team successful.
Yeah, go Aces. They really were able to pull it together, and to get that same magic over at the Raiders would be so lucrative, I'm sure, for Davis and company.
Do you plan your vacations based on whether you can speak the local language? With Babbel, language no longer has to be the barrier. I'm David Plotz, the CEO of CityCast, and I went to Mexico City a couple of years ago with my girlfriend, who's a native Spanish speaker. So I just let her do all the talking, like all of it. I adored the city, and now I'm going to go back in a couple of months, but with my college roommates, who are a bunch of middle-aged men, none of us Spanish speakers. When I was younger, I might not have been bold enough to do that, but now I'm not anxious because Babbel has me covered. Thanks to Babbel, I know how to order a taxi, how to give directions, how to order in a restaurant, all the small and useful bits of language that make international travel easier Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons, handcrafted by over 200 language experts, get you to begin speaking your new language in 3 weeks or whatever pace you choose. And because conversing is the key to really understanding each other in a new language, Babbel is designed using practical, real-world conversations, especially the sort you need while traveling. Food, how to get places. Babbel's tips and tools are inspired by the real-life stuff you actually need when communicating. With a focus on conversation, you'll be ready to talk wherever you go. So I hope I'll see you in Mexico in a couple of months. Or, as we say, espero verte en Mexico en un par de meses. So let's get more of you talking in a new language. Babbel is gifting CityCast listeners 60% off subscriptions at babbel.com/CityCast. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/CityCast. Spelled BABBEL.com/CityCast. Babbel.com/CityCast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
The Apple Watch Series 10 is here. It has the biggest display ever. It's also the thinnest Apple Watch ever, making it even more comfortable on your wrist, whether you're running, swimming, or sleeping. And it's the fastest charging Apple Watch, getting you 8 hours of charge in just 15 minutes. The Apple Watch Series 10, available for the first time in glossy jet black aluminum. Compared to previous generations, iPhone XS or later required. Charge time and actual results will vary.
I have a weird question for you. It's kind of out of left field because it does feel like the most we hear about the Raiders in our community isn't necessarily when they win or lose, but when a Raider player gets in trouble. And sadly, that has happened over and over again. And I don't know if Las Vegas is unique to that, but just last year, Janarius Robinson and Charles Snowden were arrested for DUIs. Of course, the Henry Ruggs one is very notorious. Another Raiders player who actually killed someone in a situation like that, driving. Almost 5 years in, is this a troubling trend for the team in Las Vegas? Is Vegas maybe a little too sinful a city for these folks?
No, I don't think so. I mean, that has happened in other cities as well. You look at, Miami's had a couple of incidences with players, and one of them was actually a chief that was recklessly driving out on the highway, and he was, I believe, in Florida. It happens a lot of times when guys get off in the off season and go back to, their home state, and it's just all kinds of things like that can happen anywhere. It's, how do you best protect these players in terms of setting up resources for them, which the Raiders have. So that's something.
Well, they have them, but
I wonder
it doesn't seem like they're really working well. I mean, what kind of resources
the players have to
they...
take the initiative to call the numbers that are being made available to them. I know when they have their rookie symposiums, like they tell them they have an entire day, I think, or at least a whole seminar dedicated to talking about going out, being outside of the club, how you represent yourself, how you take care of yourself if you're drunk, how you take care of yourself if you're high, or whatever the case may be. They have hotlines that you can go to call to get a driver that will come pick you up with no questions asked. So these are things that I wonder, like...
Literally no questions asked, because, I mean, I would imagine that would always be a fear that, why aren't they taking advantage of that?
That's why I think it's more on the players to be able to take that initiative on their own. Maybe it is that they're worried. Maybe it is that they think they'll look upon me differently as a player. I don't know the whole situation with Snowden, as it wasn't kind of clear cut, and I'm not giving an excuse to him. But from what I saw,
that video was kind of circulated, right? Where they were,
I edited it.
He was stopped. You edited it. That's the video I saw.
All 3 different angles. Yeah, and so when
law enforcement was asking him, hey, do you even know what state you're in? And he said, Florida.
Yeah, but
not good.
He was also in his car sleeping with it in neutral. So I'm wondering, like, he is 6'7". And I'm not giving an excuse whatsoever or trying to give a scapegoat to somebody if they were intentionally driving their vehicle. But what I thought about it, I'm like, was he just parked and then he thought, I'm just going to sleep it off in my car? And then his knee or something hit neutral and it rolled? I don't know. I'm just wondering.
Either way, Nevada is very strict. And if I could pull my little lawyer card for half a second, key in the ignition, you're going to be
Yeah, I didn't see if it was in the
charged.
mission when I edited it, but
Interesting.
I didn't see if the keys
Yeah.
were there. I know he didn't have his wallet, which was kind of interesting, but
Do you think that some of this negative news, or the negative news plus their record plus the recent firings, etc., overshadow sort of the positive work the Raiders are doing for the Las Vegas community, or the strides that they've made to engage more?
just like we kind of hope that one incident doesn't forever haunt us in our lives, that, of course, DUIs I take very seriously. I'm not saying that that's not something that people shouldn't take seriously, but I'm saying that, there are other things that, as a franchise, that the Raiders have done in Las Vegas, that shouldn't be just the only thing that people remember this team for. Of course, you can't say that to people like, the family that had to go through the tragedy that they did for Tina Tintor, but it's heartbreaking what happened to her, and
that was
heartbreaking what
the
happened.
victim in the Ruggs DUI
Correct.
case.
You can't say it was an accident what happened with Henry Ruggs, because he made conscious decisions to drink that night, and he made conscious decisions to get in his car that night and drove it at a high rate of speed that took somebody's life. And that's not anything that anyone can ever just say, oh, it was an accident, let's forgive him for it. But for the Raiders organization and what they do for this community, I've watched a handful and more of players, from AJ Cole to Daniel Carlson to Alec Ingold when he was with this team, Max Crosby, going above and beyond, Derek Carr when he was here, all the other people who have contributed, Devontae Adams, Brock Bowers, that you go on and look at the efforts that they've put into the community. And you have to see that there is good in what they do here. Devontae Adams had a whole clinic for kids. There must have been 400 kids out there on a football field where he was throwing the ball to them, working them through football skills. You have Daniel Carlson and AJ Cole, who are constantly giving back to this community through all kinds of ways. And mainly one of the ways I've seen is the Boys and Girls Club and the YMCA. And there was a season where Daniel Carlson gave back $1,000 for every extra point he made. And I think that season it was like 53.
Oh, wow.
And to a school that was underprivileged and to children that were underprivileged. And same with AJ Cole, and there was Trent Sieg, who was their long snapper, and the three of them worked together to help build a whole event at Allegiant Stadium for underprivileged kids. And it just seeing those things that these players do and that they dedicate themselves to, it's not just like they're doing it because they think it helps their image.
I am so glad, Heidi, that you're bringing it up, because
Yeah.
we do see those headlines about the negative things.
Mhm.
I mean, to the point where I want to ask you, you're close to the team, or at least, you're in there a lot. Have you heard anything from anyone on the inside, maybe regretting that they came to Las Vegas?
No, not once. Not at all. And I think, there's that perception of, oh, Las Vegas has this, Las Vegas has that. Any city does. Any city will have a place where you can go drink. Any city will have a bar or a club or temptation, but there's always going to be something somewhere that can tempt you. And how do you steer your ship? How do you keep yourself clear? How do you keep the right influences around you? And that's something that every athlete, every player, every person will have to come to terms with at some point.
Yeah, for sure. When the Raiders were announced to come here, there was a lot of discussion about, since we are such a tourist-oriented town, if we wouldn't get a lot of the visiting teams, maybe even more than the local fans. And I want to end with this, Heidi. How long do you think the Raiders will take as a team to get all of Las Vegas behind them? In other words, when are we going to see, you think, more silver and black in the crowd than what we normally see as the opposing team's colors outnumbering?
Well, you have to win, right? And people, you have your top season ticket holders selling off tickets because they are just tired of seeing loss after loss after loss and mistake after mistake. And, with the unfortunate thing with Antonio Pierce, the former head coach, was like they kept shooting themselves in the foot, the Raiders, and they continued to make bad calls on the field. And there was no offensive coordinator that could lay out a game plan that helped the team put up more than 19 points a game, on average.
Yeah.
And that's not going to help you beat any NFL team when the points being scored is going up and up and up and up and up every year. A lot of rules changed have favored the offense, so it's like, how do you compete with that? And that's what's going to help this team win as it goes into the future, is finding the right quarterback, number one. And you get the right coach or right general manager that's going to produce wins. But it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be overnight. I don't think it'll be within 3 years from now. Yeah, maybe. There have been teams where you've seen complete losing seasons be completely turned around. They make the playoffs and win Super Bowls, but it's not. It's easier said than done.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Heidi Fang, sage advice. And if Mr. Davis and Mr. Brady are listening, they would do themselves well to listen to that. And if they are listening, here's a free one for you. Deep discount for locals. And make sure you can't resell those tickets so we could get some Vegas butts in those seats, right?
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Heidi. Really appreciate your insight and your time.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And now, please enjoy this segment sponsored by Juve MD. Contributor Kim Foster is chatting with Dr. Andrea Dempsey about her medical practice that aims to improve the lives of Las Vegans managing hormonal changes, which affects a lot more people than you might think.
Hi, this is Kim Foster again, and welcome back to part 2 of our sit down, where we are really talking about menopause, how it impacts women, and how you can get some relief. We are with Dr. Andrea Dempsey from Juve MD, located in Summerlin. You can check her out at juvemd.com. And we are going to start this conversation talking about the thyroid. Dr. Dempsey, thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, Kim. Thanks for having me back. Pleasure to be here.
Can you talk a little bit about the thyroid and, how it's going to impact menopause and those kinds of things?
Definitely. So it's a central, controller of our body. And even when I went to med school, we learned that thyroid stimulating hormone was adequate to look at the way that it was stimulating our thyroid to make enough of this T4 and T3 that would then carry us through the rest of our life. If we were low thyroid, then we only had to look at this one measure when replacing it. And somewhere along the line, many years ago, I started to research with another endocrinologist, and I've read a lot of his research, Dr. Antonio Bianco. He wrote a book, Rethinking Hypothyroidism, about the importance of actually looking at T3 and managing T3, because menopause, weight loss, stress, all of these things affect our ability to convert from T4 to T3 in our body. And to only think that we're going to get out of this phase, similar to we're not going to get out of menopause, we're just not going to replace our thyroid hormone adequately, necessarily, by ourselves. So I've always entertained the idea of putting T3 into the mix, because just treating hormone replacement therapy like the estrogen, testosterone, progesterone doesn't always lead to the success stories. And when I went to this conference in Texas, that's exactly what they put together as their kind of happiness to the equation, was that women will eventually kind of like flatline. And if they looked at their thyroid, they're like, oh my gosh, it looks like their thyroid is the one missing link. And it can change. So we have to continue to monitor the thyroid and address T3 levels to an adequate level, not over-medicating patients and not treating people like it's a way to lose weight. And the symptoms that many people think are going to be given when people take thyroid is just not the case. So it actually improves a lot of things.
Can you tell the women out there a little bit about testosterone? I know there's people who are going to be thinking, I'm going to end up growing a beard. My voice is going to change. What are the effects of testosterone for women at this point in our lives?
Yeah, we definitely need testosterone. We have testosterone in our body. And so when I look at the blood work that shows that women have no testosterone, I think they must be struggling mentally. The clarity, the exercise tolerance, the ability to kind of take on new tasks. It's not just estrogen benefits. And so I have seen in my practice, it's the magic. I think we talked about that before when we were speaking. It's like the magic of this whole thing. I love the magic.
I love this idea of testosterone as this little bit of magic.
A little bit of magic. I mean,
oh, that's so good.
It's not only the libido changes and the improvement to vaginal dryness and sometimes urinary tract improvement. It's also just our brains handle stress better with some additional testosterone, not man levels of testosterone. And we look at these levels and we carefully monitor. Every time someone comes in, they're basically getting some type of lab done. And so it's a one kind of pellet for your height and weight and your labs. It's not everybody gets the same dose. But the bone density improvements, amazing. Lean body mass, it also helps patients lose weight a little bit better just because of the way the testosterone works on our system. So it is a little bit of magic in there. And I think everybody should find a doctor that's willing to entertain. It could be topical, although I don't believe any longer that the topical works as well as the pellet. I've just seen I don't.
You don't?
Yeah, I've
Okay.
seen so much variability in the blood work. Also just how people respond to the cream. And I've never entertained doing injections in women because I just think it's a peak and valley of levels, whereas the pellet is for my patients, very steady state. And it's the one thing that I know patients come in every 4 months. They're like, I couldn't go without this. I cannot believe I lived without this. I used to do these like creams and patches, and this is just like life-changing. It really is.
Did you find that testosterone had like a real influence on like sexual desire, which we know can be very challenging when you're in menopause? Did you find that it helped that?
Definitely. I mean, more so in the form of a pellet than the creams. And that's why I just think that, it's hard for me to talk people out of trying a pellet of testosterone that really isn't a good option. So when patients say, I cannot believe like my relationship is so much better because now we can have this dialogue and I don't feel so bad about myself, and then I worry about my partner, the way they might feel about me not entertaining, my libido is so low, and then I'm tired all the time. And so, yes, I feel like I fixed a lot of relationships. I say that because I hear it all the time. They're like,
I love it.
Can't believe it at any age, like a 65-year-old woman. It's like it. Yes. So, I mean, and I also do hormone replacement for men in the form of pellets. So I feel like it's important to talk about the sexual side effects and the sexual benefits of hormone replacement therapy. And it's definitely part of our dialogue in our office with our patients.
Could you talk to the women who are in perimenopause and menopause who are struggling right now? Give them the next steps.
So next step is you're not alone. It's not just a phase you're going to have to get through. Yes, it could be a change of job or relationship. So there are stressors, but there is a doctor out there that will listen to you. And although there might be some options for some other prescription medication, at least ordering your blood work, at least entertaining that this isn't something you might just have to pass through and struggle. And if you could find a support group, I mean, I know now on my socials, it's all over with menopausal discussions and perimenopause. So I think we're getting supported. And I know women do really well when we get together and we talk about things. And I think debunking some of the Women's Health Initiative study is helping. So the next step would be don't take no for an answer. Find the right provider, get some blood work, do some reading. So I'm sure there's going to be more and more, even not reading, I mean, podcasts. There's going to be tremendous amounts of podcasts coming up, I know. So, I think there's going to be more options. I'm very excited, super excited about this field. It's about time.
Yes. Dr. Andrea Dempsey, thank you so much for joining us today on CityCast. Everybody check out Joovv MD, located in Summerlin. And to all the folks listening in the audience, you can go and check out Dr. Dempsey's site at joovvmd.com for more information and make an appointment to see her. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
That's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. If you enjoyed the show, hey, go tell a friend. You could also rate the show with the stars and such. Leave us a review too and subscribe to our morning newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Till then, stay lucky.